bum, 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 bum. How you doing, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Previously, I've done a video talking about an EPK and the different elements that go into an EPK for aspiring DJs and even established DJs. And what I wanted to do is do a breakdown of a top flight professional DJ's EPK and talk about why certain elements are in there and what you can take from this in terms of applying those to your own EPK to make it as professional as possible. So in my opinion, an EPK is a DJ or an entertainer's CV. So in the electronic dance industry, they're called EPKs, which is electronic press kit, and they're widely known as that throughout the whole music industry. Previously, they used to be called a press kit, which would have been a document, a tangible paper file with a one-pager, which is effectively like your CV, some photos, and sort of like all the information related to an artist. Since sort of the evolution of the internet, EPKs became electric or digitalized, which meant they could be shared on a global scale a lot faster. And over time, they've slowly started to evolve and add features and take features away to make them as streamlined as possible, and also to give the viewer as much information about the potential artist that they're going to book. So what I wanted to do is look at a professional artist's EPK and just strip it down in terms of the way it's packaged, the way it's formatted, and just to give you an insight, and hopefully you can take away the learning from this and apply it to your own EPK. So the artist that we're going to pull apart is Loco Dice, and the information that I've gained is freely accessible on the internet. So you go onto Loco Dice's management page and you can download this EPK and get access to it. So there's nothing that's sort of like been, there's nothing that's secret here, because this information is easily accessible on the internet. So in terms of how it's laid out on the computer screen, so you've got one folder, okay? So the folder is named AAA Loco Dice Press Kit. Simple as that. So in terms of labeling it as a file, make it as simple as possible. So if your DJ name is DJ John Smith, just call it DJ John Smith EPK or DJ John Smith Press Kit, and that's your mother folder. That's like the umbrella folder, so everything's going to sit inside this one folder. Now in terms of shareability, you can zip this folder, you can then stick it on a cloud storage system, and everything inside there is going to be nicely compact and easily transferable to anybody that's going to want to pick it up. So that's my first bit of advice. Don't leave everything just in scatter arrays all over the internet in different places for people to have to go on a treasure hunt to pull all of that information together. So have it neatly housed in one folder that can be zipped and easily transferable. My advice from there would be have it stored online through somewhere like Dropbox or Google Drive or somewhere along those lines, and that way all you need is just a URL. You need a link and you can share your EPK with anybody at any point in the world. Now if you wanted to take this a little bit further, creating your own website, so having your own domain, djjohnsmith.co.uk or .com, and then having your link to your EPK on your website is amazing, which means you break down time and geography barriers. Your EPK is accessible anywhere in the world at any time in the world. So if you're a UK artist and somebody in South America was potentially looking at booking you, they don't have to wait for you to be awake to be able to get the information that would make them decide whether or not they were booking you. And this is just in terms of professionalism and automation in terms of accessing potential bookers. This is where you want to be. Don't limit yourself to just being like a local DJ. I'm a local DJ in Wrexham or a local DJ in Leeds. Put yourself out there on a global scale, because especially if you're sharing your music on places like SoundCloud and you're producing videos and stuff like that, anyone anywhere in the world could come across you at any time. So if you're not ready for, or you're not anticipating that sort of that interest, as soon as that interest does come about and they can't find the information, as soon as that interest comes, it as quickly dissipates. So that would be my first bit of advice. So let's dive into this EPK, or let's dive into this press kit and have a little look at how it's laid out. So first of all, we go into the first folder, and then we've got three separate documents. So we've got one document and two subfolders. Now the one document is basically Loco Dice's one sheet, as it's called, or your press sheet, and we'll go into this in a second. Then you have logos, and then you have press pictures. In terms of this layout, I think this is probably one of the strongest layouts that's possible. You've got a mother folder. Inside that mother folder, you go off to the certain pieces of documents that people will specifically be looking for. So if it's a magazine that wants to write a feature on you, they're going to want images. You know, in this folder, you then have a folder specific for images. You know, all of these files aren't just dotted around within this folder, they're neatly organized. And that's all about, you know, efficiency for the person that's going to use the information. You know, someone really wants to get an article out quickly, or they've just decided to book you, you know, they want to be able to get access to information to start promoting that booking as soon as possible. So having the images neatly organized is amazing. You could go one step further than this and have within there videos. The only problem with video files is they tend to be a lot larger in terms of data storage. So all of a sudden that folder becomes less shareable because it's so large. You know, if you start looking at a folder that's zipped, that's near enough a gigabyte or something like that, you know, or 500 meg, it's less shareable than one that's, you know, 1 or 2 meg. So my advice would be careful with videos and be a bit more intelligent about where you place those. Place those where they can be always accessed. If you've got videos embedded in a folder that's in a zip folder waiting on you, like on your website, it isn't accessible all the time. The best place for that would be Facebook or YouTube, and it's constantly accessible for yourself as an artist. So we've got those folders. I'm going to work backwards. The first folder I'm going to start with is press pictures. So we go into here and you can see that Loco Dice has 3 press images in a slight different variety, but a very similar theme. So we've got a black and white one, side profile, shot portrait. You know, this is really good for a magazine if you wanted to do a 1-page feature with some text, so you could use this long ways and some text sitting alongside it. So it's worth having images that are both portrait and landscape, and this just means they're widely usable. In terms of, you know, from a promoter's perspective, most promoters will tend to use a landscape image, and that's why you'll see a lot of my portraits being shot in landscape. And the reason being is it just gives a nice bit of area either side of the artist or across the image to pot text, and ultimately that's what they're going to be using the image for, to promote you as a booking, promote you as an artist, and they're going to need space to add text alongside that. We then got another image, which is a landscape one, as you can see, and you know, it's quite a cool image. It's being shot up looking at Loco Dice. I really like the creative on it. It's nice and simple. It's got nice clean spaces around the artist to be able to pot text, and that's something that's quite crucial within the press images you go for. And then one of the things I always like when I work with artists particularly is shoot what I would call, you know, you've got stock images. These are the images that are going to go to promoters, and you know, they're going to be the sort of the bread and butter in terms of promoting yourself. But then within that you should have some really creative ones, and for me those creative ones are really about building that personal brand and standing out from the crowd. You know, say for instance you know, Loco Dice is going to go into a feature in Mix Mag or DJ Mag or somewhere along those lines. This image here is probably the image that they're going to use because it's super creative, it stands out. You know, it's not just sort of, you know, it's not a stock image, there's a little bit more to it. And that's what you need as an artist. So in terms of like working with a photographer, you want your stock images that can be widely used and now your bread and butter in terms of promoting gigs, and then you have a few that are just like super creative and stand out. And I always try to make a point of working with artists to work on the super creative ones as well as the stock images, and that way as an artist you've got an array of images that you can use for different situations. And in this EPK or this press kit, he's got 3 images that are neatly laid out. They're all in JPEG format as well. And in terms of the size of those images, you know, the images sit at 4 megabyte. Now, that's a really good file size. So I would say 2 to 4 megabyte is as maximum as you want to go. And the reason being is 2 megabytes is effectively HD. When you start going below that, you lose the ability to show as much quality as possible on a screen. So 2 megabyte isn't a huge file size, and it will still be viewable on a TV of, you know, 55 inch that's HD. So on a computer screen or on a tablet or something like that, it's going to give the best possible quality. Also, again, in terms of shareability, the files are not huge. So between these 3 images here, that folder comes in at 7.8 megabyte for the 3 images, which I think is great. And also those images can be used across a wide range of platforms, so in both print for magazines and also online in digital. So if someone wanted to write a digital article on him, or someone wanted to write a printed article, they haven't got to go into many different locations to find the right images that will suit that format. They've got them all there neatly organized. So a really good example of what you should be doing with your press pictures. Then we've got logos. Now, in terms of building a brand, every single brand in the world that has ever had success has a logo. Like, you know, McDonald's, everybody knows that. Coca-Cola, everybody knows that. Nike, everybody knows that. Simple and consistent is the key for building a brand, and trying to use your logo as much as possible. You know, if you want to be super creative and create some merchandise, as you can see here, resistance is a knight. You know, create some merchandise, start building your brand, and the start of building a brand is having a logo. So work with a professional to do that. In terms of how you use your logo, if you have a little look here, in these folders, he has them in a PDF, he has EPS as well, so these are file formats that are more readily usable through Photoshop and things like that. And he's got a range of them. So we have this one here, which is the Loco Dice Diamond, and then we have Loco Dice, which is written, you see that one sort of like Circo Loco and places like that. The agency that he's sort of managed through, you can see their logo as well. Because again, don't forget, this EPK is housed on a artist management page, so of course they want to put their logo on there, and there's probably some contractual obligation that their logo is represented every time this artist is, and that's something that you've got to kind of anticipate when you get to this stage. This is a top flight DJ, do remember. So some of the other stuff as well, you know, his logo, you've got it in high key and low key, which means basically you've got it on a white background and a dark background. This again gives, you know, the potential user the ability to use this on such a wide array of platforms, which is highly advised. What I would probably want to look at as well doing that isn't here is having the files in a PNG. So a PNG basically will get rid of any sort of blocking of color around the logo, and that's going to be really, like, you know, sort of, if someone wants to create a flyer with one of your press images, add some text next to it and stick your logo in a PNG format, you know, it's much easier to do that and stick that over. But saying that, having the EPS files, you know, they're files that are going to be used in Photoshop. If you're opening these files, you're going to be opening them in Photoshop, and you're probably going to have a level of skill to be able to manipulate those and use them right. But you can see there's a wide range of logos in here. Very advised to, one, get a logo, two, be very confident with it and happy with it, because once you create that, that's your logo for a long, you know, for as long as possible. You know, once you've got that logo, have it readily available for people that are going to potentially build it. You know, this is a top flight DJ. Now, this is a top flight DJ that in his press kit is promoting his logo. Why would you be doing that? Building a brand, like building a recognizable brand on an international scale, one of the easiest ways to do that is having a logo. Is having a logo, is having a specific look. If we look at, you know, other artists, for an example, Deadmau5, Daft Punk, God, those are just extreme examples, because obviously what they've done with they're out in, you know, Peggy Gou is another one. Like, she's instantly recognizable because she's fucking fly, man. Like, she dresses so well. The Martinez brothers, you know, you instantly recognize them because, you know, they dress extremely well. Like, that's their brand. That's sort of like their brand identity that they're building in the industry. And a logo plays a huge part in that. So strongly recommend having a logo and having it accessible within your EPK. Then we move into the document that's housed within this sort of mother folder, and that's basically what I would call the one sheet. This is effectively your sort of your CV or your EPK, as I would call it. Let's just zoom out of here slightly. So we've got a one pager. If we have a little look at its laid out, obviously the management agency, they've got their logo, you know, very, very visually prominent, and that's because they manage him. You know, they've got every right to have that logo prominent and show that, you know, they manage artists of this caliber. Then you have Loco Dice and his press sheet. It gives you an indication to how many pages there are. This has 3 pages. Now, I'm not arguing against this. You know, this is one of the best DJs in the industry. Having 3 pages is not really going to cause him an issue because he's highly recognizable already. My advice would be keep it to 1 or 2 pages long, the same as you would do with a CV. You know, keep it quite condensed and have links filtering off from this that are accessible. So we then go down, we've got booking management inquiries. So you can see, you know, his booker's details are here. So if someone gets hold of this EPK and they decided, yep, Loco Dice is the DJ we want to book, they can click this link, and it's the link is hyperlinked, so it's a interactive PDF, which means it's basically going to take us directly to email his booking agent. And that's something really intelligent. Don't put your email in there in text format. Look, someone's got to like copy out and then paste into an email inbox. Like, it's the 21st century. That's stupidity. People want things as simple as possible. So my advice would be make it interactive, add the hyperlinks that will take the viewer to where you want them to go. You want them to make a booking, take them to the email address that's going to confirm that booking. It's very simple. Then we have PR inquiries. So this will then send off to Listen Up. So these are the guys that are managing Loco Dice's PR. So again, this one isn't interactive. So my advice would be make that interactive, definitely. Make it as interactive as possible so it makes it easy for the user to send them to where you want to go, basically. Then you have press kit. So even though we are in Loco Dice's press kit, they've created a link to this press kit in there, and I think that's a super highly intelligent thing to do, and it's something I would highly recommend. The reason being is someone could get hold of this one pager. So say for instance someone wants to book Loco Dice and his manager is on tour, and someone says, hey, we want to book Loco Dice, can we get hold of his one sheet? His manager would then email him this one sheet. The one sheet doesn't have those images and the logos for the booker to be able to really start utilizing the information to promote that booking. So what would then happen? So you'd stop. Like the promoter's like, oh well, I don't have any images. I've got to go online. I've got to find those images, and then before you know it, the image that Loco Dice is trying to build and control, it starts to sort of like fall apart because there's no consistency. So by having this link in there, the manager can send this one pager, the potential booker can click the link that's embedded in here, takes him to the folder with all of those images and those logos in there. So super intelligent, highly recommended to do. It may seem a bit stupid sticking the link for the file that's in a folder that you already have access to that file in there. Like it sounds stupid, but it's very intelligent because it means that no one's going to miss out on essential information to sort of firm up that booking. Then you've got correct name for advertising. Now, this is just to make sure that Loco Dice isn't spelt with, two C's, or, it isn't spelt wrong. And again, that's part of that branding message to make sure it's consistent wherever it's used on a global scale. So as you're starting off, this is probably something that's irrelevant to yourself, but well worth considering later on, especially if you've got a bit of a funky name that's spelt differently. Then over on the other side, oh no, apologies, going back, I hadn't clicked the document, so the PR inquiries link does work, so apologies, I take that back. You then have related links. Now, these related links will take us to Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, Twitter, Beatport, Resident Advisor, Loco Dice's website and his discography, Loco Dice's own website, Desolate Music, which is obviously his label, and then the agent's website as well. So why would you have all these information in there? Facebook, that's where you're going to build your fan base. So for instance, if I wanted to book Loco Dice and I was like, okay, right, I know I need to sell, I'm going to book him for a festival, I need to sell huge amounts of tickets to sort of make the money back. I need to make sure this guy has a fan base to be able to warrant putting him in that space. And that's exactly the same on a smaller scale. So for instance, you're going to play at a smaller venue, their venue capacity is maybe 1,000, you have 10,000 Facebook followers. Oh, okay, cool. If I get 5% of those followers come along to this event, all of a sudden the math starts to make sense, and that's something that you want to factor in. So having Facebook on there, definitely something I would do. Instagram, 100%, because again, that's another fan base building platform, and that keeps people in touch with what you're doing. And again, they're all hyperlinked, so I can click any of these and go straight to them. So for instance, if I click Instagram now, allow it a few seconds to load. No, I accidentally clicked his Facebook one. So it takes me straight to his Facebook page. You can see that he's got, over 100,000 followers. Amazing. Straight away we're like, yeah, cool, he's got a blue tick, the guy's verified. This is the sort of artist that we want to be dealing with at our festival. SoundCloud, so I can click on here. This is going to take me to Loco Dice's SoundCloud. This is his ability to promote his music to his fan base. So he has 206,000 followers, he's following 25 people, all of the information. So what this also does, if I wasn't aware of who this artist is, I can quickly test the sound of his music to make sure it aligns with the event that we're going to be doing. This isn't, for an artist of this scale, people know what they're going to get. But for an artist trying to build a name, it's essential that people can access your sound to ensure it fits the vibe of the party. Otherwise they could potentially book a disco DJ coming into a techno night, and that may work in some situations, but may not work in others. So we've got the SoundCloud, we've got the Twitter, we've got Beatport. Beatport is great. It obviously means that he's at a point in his career where he's producing music, he's selling music, so other DJs can play his track and therefore continue building his name as a DJ/producer. Amazing, have that linked in there. And from a business perspective, this is his one pager trying to promote himself as an artist, or his agency trying to promote him as an artist. This is effectively another revenue stream. Like, this is access to Beatport where he can sell his tracks, which inevitably is going to make him additional income. So from a business perspective, super intelligent and something you want to be looking at long term in your career. You know, master the art of being a DJ. Once you've done that, start, you know, playing around with producing and working with people to produce tracks. Or if you start with a producer, have an access point to where you're selling your music for other DJs to get hold of and utilize. Resident Advisor, great platform for sort of looking at where artists are touring to, where they're going to be playing. One of the sort of like, you know, they're one of the OGs in the industry. Like Resident Advisor has been around for ages. Well worth getting yourself a page on there or having at least an account. Discography, he's producing music, so he has a history of musical releases, so this is well worth having. If you haven't had any, you know, significant releases on labels or anything like that, I probably wouldn't do this just yet. But if you are starting to get music published and being put on labels, I would definitely recommend having a discography on there and start, you know, being proud of the achievements. You know, I've got a record that's signed to Elra, I've got a record that's signed to Defected, I've got, you know, start putting those on there so people can see, you know, it's your CV. People can see your history, they can see the progress you've been making and where those tracks have sort of ended up, which is, you know, great. So you've then got locodice.com. My advice to any DJ or any artist, whether you're a photographer, whether you're a DJ, or whether you're everything, do not skimp out. Buy yourself a domain and buy yourself a specific email address. There is nothing worse than clicking a link and it goes to davesmithdj@gmail.com. It just looks bad. It's unprofessional. It's like going into Nike store and it being like, you know, emailing Nike because you've got an issue and it's like nike@gmail.com. Like, honestly, it's not expensive and it shows you value your virtual bricks and mortar. Like, your domain is your home. That's, you know, it's specifically yours. You've got hold of that. You control it. For me, for instance, mine is lukecurtis.co.uk. My name is Luke Curtis, my domain is Luke Curtis, that's mine. I'm slowly trying to build my brand and my name as Luke Curtis, you know, and so it makes sense having a website Luke Curtis, it makes sense having my LinkedIn Luke Curtis, it makes sense having my Facebook link Luke Curtis, having as much of that, reference that branding, and it just creates that consistency. So having locodice.com makes perfect sense. My advice, as I say again, is to any aspiring, you know, DJ, producer, photographer, videographer, creative, get yourself a domain, link an email address so you can have info@davesmithdj.com. Like, just secure that space. It's yours and it plays a significant part in building your brand, and it does long term. So he's got that as well. Access to his label, and then obviously access to the booking agency. So that's the first page. You then move down into Loco Dice biography. So this basically takes up the second page. This is Loco Dice's complete biography. So it talks about where he's come from, how he's got there, the things that inspire him. This is basically his elevator pitch. This is helping him sell himself as an artist. And I strongly recommend, in your EPK, I would highly recommend having two versions of this, having a short version and a long version. The reason I would say doing this isn't in there, within Loco Dice's, and largely that's because, like, the guy is recognizable in the industry. Like, it's unquestionable who he is. Now, my advice for having a short and a long version is, what that basically does is, if someone wants to use information from your biography, they don't have to trawl through the long one picking bits out. You know, you get a short one that's 50 words, you know, 50 to maybe 60 words. It's very punchy, it's very edgy, it pulls in all the core pieces of information. So if somebody wants to do a special feature on you and they need, you know, something that's really punchy, the short version's there, it's accessible. So my advice would be definitely have a short and a long version within your EPK. In terms of text format, you know, put this in a format that you can strip the text out of. You know, I can click this, I can copy the text, I can then use that elsewhere. If you build it into, you know, certain documents and you can't pull that information out, it's useless to the person using it. In some instances, it may even be worth having a PDF version of your EPK and then also having a Word document of your EPK as well, which just means from a magazine's perspective or press perspective, you know, the information is more easily extractable to utilize than trying to pull it from a PDF. So second page is the biography. Strongly recommend having, well, not even recommend, like, it's a no-brainer, it's an essential. Get it and spend time doing it, you know. Write it from a third person perspective. If you're not happy, get somebody else to write it. Get a close friend to you. Get somebody, you know, who's been part of your journey to write your biography for you, because they'll understand all of the parts that were important and essential to getting where you were. So put that together, because that's your narrative. The other great thing about having this biography, in terms of building a strong personal brand, what your EPK does, and its secret weapon, in my opinion, is its control. Now, you're not controlling in sort of a weird way. It's basically, if there's so many different stories of you as an artist, there's no consistent story, so then the message starts to get watered down, and you don't know what is truth and what isn't truth. If you specifically control the information that goes out into the world on you, it's consistent. If you look at any company, they would have like their brand guideline and their story, their about us page. That's their message. That's the message they want to be delivered consistently across the world. And that's exactly what you want as well. Your biography is helping build your personal brand, and you want to make sure you have as much control over that as possible. So a magazine wants to write a feature on you. The information they get is going to be exactly the same as a promoter, exactly the same as another magazine on the other side of the world. That message you're delivering is consistent across the board, and that's a really important factor. For those that don't know, my history is in marketing. In terms of marketing a business, having an inconsistent story is one of the worst things you can possibly have. Look at some of the most notable people in the world. Elon Musk is a great example. Came to America with no money in his pocket, tried to launch a rocket, using batteries on 3 occasions. I think it was the 3rd or the 4th time he had to do it, otherwise his Tesla battery car company and his rocket company were both going to go under. The guy was in not even hundreds of thousands, not even he was in billions of pounds worth of debt. He had to get it right. I don't even know the guy, and I know his story. That shows his narrative is controlled across the globe. We know his story. People buy into a story or they don't buy into a story, but you have to have a consistent narrative. Otherwise, you'll lose fans, and that's, look at Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. That story is consistent the world over. That's what you want to be achieving. Wherever your name is spoken about, they know your history, and they know the narrative that sits behind it. The more people know it and they recognize it, the bigger your brand becomes and more easily recognizable it becomes. And that's a marketing insight. So then we move down into the 3rd page, and it's just a continuation of the biography. At the bottom here, you've got all of the information to sort of contact the management agency, including telephone numbers. I think that's great. In terms of new artists sort of aspiring, building a name, probably that bit at the bottom may not be quite useful. I'd say keep all of that stuff up here. In terms of this layout, what you want to do is, if you're going to look at the 2-page format, this first page, you want anyone that gets hold of this first page to be able to get hold of every piece of information they could possibly need for you as an artist. Images, social platform links, files for the images, who to contact to book, all of that sort of stuff. You want that on the first page. Don't break all that information down into different places, because then it stops being streamlined. It takes more time for somebody to disseminate that information, and that's not what you want. You want it to be as streamlined and consistent as possible. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's the breakdown of Loco Dice's EPK, or his press kit. It's a really great example, and there's a lot to be learned from this example. Now, you guys can easily go off and find this yourself and download it and have a little play with it and start looking at how it's formatted and start pulling those pieces together for yourself. And if you're sitting there thinking, why the fuck do I need an EPK? This is Loco Dice, he has an EPK, speaks for itself. I would always say, looking at electronic press kits or press kits, it's your CV. Could you imagine walking into a job without a CV? It's absolutely essential. You can have your story, your history all panned out, and all the relevant bits of information about what makes you suitable for that opportunity. It's exactly the same for the music industry. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you've learned a lot from it. If there's any questions, please do pop them down below. I'm always happy to help. If you think this video would help somebody else, please do share it. If you like the channel, please do subscribe. If you've got any ideas for future episodes, let me know. Over time, I'm going to start building on this and helping other aspiring artists as much as I possibly can, from a marketing perspective and from an industry perspective. So again, thank you ever so much for your time. This has been a really long video, but hopefully you'll find it useful. Sorry for stealing so many precious minutes of your life. Hopefully you can take something from it and it will benefit you long term. Until next time, I'll see you soon, guys. Take care.